Hey everyone, this is another example of an exercise from Musician, the meter recognition part, okay, to figure out what the time signature is. Again, just to repeat here, we're looking for the time signature, which has two parts, the top number and the bottom number. We're trying to figure out the top number, which tells us how many beats are there in a measure. So how do we divide a group of music, a bar of music, evenly into a number of beats? And the only options for this at the moment for us is 2, 3, and 4. So we can only divide a bar into 2, 3, or 4 beats. Okay, that's the top number. The bottom number, we also have to figure out then, once we can figure out it divides evenly into one of these numbers, then what is the note type we're going to use to represent that one beat, the equivalent of that one beat, and that's the bottom number. Okay, and the options here, you can have different numbers, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, although the most common ones are 2, 4, and 8. And these numbers are not counting anything, but they're actually telling us what kind of note we're using to represent one beat. Okay. Now, for this exercise, as with the other one before, we have a whole bunch of notes. Okay, so the first thing to do is to analyze the notes that you have in each bar in terms of note durations. Okay, so you have a quarter note, 2 eighth notes beamed together. You have a half note, dotted quarter note, and then 2 16th notes beamed together. Right. One effective way to figure out how do you divide these note durations into even beats to see what number of beats might work would be to convert all of these notes into the same note duration. And I would recommend doing it with the smallest duration that you have existing. So that means that let's convert all of these into 16th notes. Right? So for the quarter note, that is equal to 4 16th notes, and I'm beaming them together. The 2 eighth notes, again, convert into 4 16th notes. The half note would be the same as the 2 quarter notes. Okay, so that means it would be 8 16th notes. The dotted quarter here, the dot means it's adding half of the value of the quarter note. Okay, so let's start with the quarter note. The quarter note is 4 16th notes. And then half of that is 2 16th notes. And then the remaining 2 16th notes, of course, is just 2 16th notes. Right. So altogether, you have 24 16th notes. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 groups of 4. Okay, so you have 24 16th notes. I'm going to write this down. Now, the next question is, our options of dividing these 24 16th notes into beats are dividing them into 2 beats, 3 beats, or 4 beats. Okay, because the number is 24, it divides evenly into 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so once we do that, then we have to look at, okay, if we divide this music into 2 parts, is there a note type that represents one beat? Okay, so let's do that first. Okay, so let's divide 24 into 2 parts. So that would be right over here. So I'm dividing that into 2 parts. Okay, so you have 12 16th notes in each part. Okay, let's say that's the answer. Okay. Then that means we need to complete the time signature by showing what type of note receives one beat. Well, the problem here is that one beat equals the equivalent of 3 quarter notes, right? 1 quarter note, 2 quarter note, 3 quarter notes, right? And the only note type that we have that is representing 3 quarter notes is a dotted half note, and that's not one of the note types that we can use for the bottom number. Again, we're trying to figure out the bottom number here. And the options here are whole note, half note, quarter note, eighth note, 16th note, represented by numbers. Okay, but we cannot use a dotted note to represent one beat. Okay, for what we're doing right now. Okay, so in that sense, okay, because of that, because we can't find a note duration without dots that can represent one beat. Okay, then 2 is not the correct answer. Okay, so we're going to cross that out. So let's take a look at 3. Okay, if we divide this into 3 parts, would be that. Okay, in this case, each beat is represented by the equivalent of 2 quarter notes or 8/16 notes. Right? And yes, we do have a note type for that bottom number that represents the equivalent of 2 quarter notes, and that's a half note, okay, represented by the number 2. So here, the correct answer is 3/2, because for this piece of music, we can divide it into 3 equal beats, with each beat being the equivalent of a half note. Okay, so we use the top number to tell us how many beats there are in the measure, and the bottom number tells us what kind of note is used to represent one beat. And we're just figuring this out mathematically. Now, just to show you, okay, if we had divided the 16th notes into 4 parts, okay, that means that each beat would be 6/16 notes, okay. And again, that doesn't work because we don't have a note type without dots. That is the equivalent of 1 beat in this case. 1 beat here is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6/16 notes, okay, which is a dotted quarter note. Right? So that also won't work. Okay, so here the correct answer is 3/2.